This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight now, we bring you a discussion on resumption of domestic flight services. The participants are Anu Sharma, civil aviation expert, and AIR correspondent Renu Kataria.
How important it was to open up aviation in the domestic sector amid COVID-19 after a gap of 2 months today.
It was very important to open up domestic civil operations because the Health Ministry have been saying that this is a virus that we probably would have to live with until a vaccine is developed for it. So we could not let the domestic civil operations to be suspended until we find that vaccine. So hence the movement of passengers are extremely necessary. So it was about time for Civil Aviation Ministry. Flights have resumed in a graded manner. Less than 1/3 of operations have started. So that will also assess what kind of demand are the airlines witnessing amid COVID-19 pandemic.
How much has COVID-19 impacted the aviation sector in India, and how will the aviation sector revive itself post-lockdown?
It has severely impacted the airlines because not many airlines are financially healthy in India. So it has led to zero cash flows for all airlines, and definitely it has become a question of survival for some of them. And as far as how long will it take for the airlines to revive is concerned, it is definitely a question of time. If we are able to find a vaccine for COVID-19 and if we are able to see a decline, even if we are not able to find the vaccine, but if somehow by practicing social distancing and other health protocols, if we are able to see a decline in the number of COVID-19 cases, then maybe there will be a better demand to travel by air. But as of the near term, maybe the next 3 to 4 months, the demand is expected to be muted.
Ma'am, the bookings opened up from today for the airlines. How much is the capacity that the airlines allowed to operate it? We also saw that some flights were cancelled today because the reasons cited were the airports not being ready to accept the traffic.
The government had allowed 1/3 of operations to commence across all airports. But as far as the Udan airports are concerned, there are no restrictions. Airlines can operate at 100% capacity. But since yesterday, a lot of states like Maharashtra, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, they had their own concerns. They had shown resistance towards flight resumption. And that is why a lot of flights got cancelled at the last moment, as West Bengal has decided to resume operations only from May 28th, and that will also happen on the basis of around 20 arrivals and departures on a daily basis for Kolkata and Bagdogra. And similarly for Andhra Pradesh, it is May 26th for Vizag and Visakhapatnam.
Some airlines are jittery in resuming services as multiple states have put in place separate norms and conditions for quarantining passengers arriving by domestic flights. Can you tell us more about this?
Quarantine has been a very confusing topic for passengers, and it has caused a lot of anxiety to the arriving passengers, especially because all states have been mandated by the union government to form their own rules for quarantine, and hence passengers should read up on the quarantine rules of the state that they are arriving at and then only make travel plans. Because, for example, a state like Rajasthan is mandating 14-day home quarantine for all incoming passengers, and in case passenger has to leave within the next 7 days, the passenger will have to produce a negative RT-PCR test. For example, in case of Delhi, there is no such mandatory home quarantine, but passengers are requested to monitor their health over the period of next 14 days. So it really depends from state to state, but definitely this will be a major cause of anxiety among passengers and may impact the travel plans.
Ma'am, we are talking about the Udan scheme. The Civil Aviation Ministry has decided to restart regional air connectivity services under the Udan scheme. Can you tell us more about this scheme?
So Udan scheme, which is meant to connect underdeveloped and developing airports. It is really meant to connect the rural cities and the rural towns and the remote parts of the country. So the government has allowed full operations at Udan airports, and the airlines are allowed to operate the flights at these airports. And I think SpiceJet is one of the main players in Udan. Other than SpiceJet, there is Air India, there is TrueJet. So all these airlines will be able to operate flights at the remote places, connecting the smaller towns and cities of India.
And the government has also issued a price cap and a floor to keep the fares under control. Can you tell us more about this?
So the government has introduced 7 price brackets depending on the duration it takes to reach that destination. So from point A to point B, for example, from Delhi to Mumbai, the lower limit is 3,500 rupees, the upper limit is 10,000 rupees, and the government has said that all the fares that will be put up by the airlines have to be between this price band. And remember, this is the base fare that we are talking about. Another condition that the government has put is 40% of the tickets that will be sold by an airline have to be below the median point of 3,500 rupees and 10,000 rupees. So the median point of the lower limit and the upper limit. So there are 7 kinds of fare brackets, and the government has basically put in this kind of condition in order to contain any massive jump or rise in fares, because the flights were getting resumed after being grounded for 2 months.
There is also only web check-in allowed for the domestic passengers, which means that one doesn't have to go to the counter anymore. So who is tagging the baggage over here?
The passengers have been advised to do mandatory web check-in, and they can also go to the airline's website and get the printouts of the baggage tags. They can paste that on their baggage, and then they can arrive at the airport. Simultaneously, they can also do it after having arrived at the airport, because there are kiosks which can be operated by the passengers themselves. So if the passenger faces any difficulty, that can be done at the airport as well, but web check-in is mandatory.
Ma'am, once a passenger has boarded, how does one know that those who are traveling with you are not infected? And how does one stay safe on the airplane?
The best practice is to ensure that social distancing measures are implemented by yourself. So you have to keep sanitizing your hand, and that is why 350 milliliter of hand sanitizer liquid bottle is allowed to be carried in the hand baggage. So continuously keep sanitizing your hands. Also ensure that you are not sitting close to any passenger while you are waiting in the boarding area or while you are waiting in the check-in area. And even while you are sitting in the flight, do ensure that you are wearing a mask. If you have a face shield, then well and good. And you are also sanitizing your hands as frequently as possible.
Recently, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced the PPP, Private-Public Partnership, saying that more airports are being developed. What is your take on this, and how will this help the civil aviation sector?
Privatization of airports will help in getting more revenues for Airports Authority of India, the operator of these airports, who is basically privatizing these airports or selling these airports for operation, maintenance and development. So another set of 6 airports. The first phase has already been completed. 3 are yet to be awarded. The second phase is likely to be kicked off very soon. That is what the government has said. And they have also decided that there will be a third phase. So privatization of airports will lead to better finances for the Airports Authority of India, which the Airports Authority of India plans to use in further building up the airport capacity across the country.
The Vande Bharat mission has successfully repatriated stranded Indians overseas, and recently the MHA, Ministry of Home Affairs, released a new set of standard operating procedures regarding movement of stranded passengers abroad. Can you tell us more about this?
Vande Bharat mission, which is bringing back stranded Indians from abroad, but this mission is taking place on a payment basis. The passengers who are coming back via these flights, firstly, they are identified by the embassies of those countries, and secondly, they are paying for those flights. This has been a successful mission, and very soon we will see even private airlines participating in this mission and getting back citizens, because so far it was only Air India who was allowed to operate the repatriation flights. We're seeing more private airlines also coming in.
Ma'am, can you tell us more about the guidelines or standard operating procedures for international travelers?
So international travelers, for them, there will be mandatory institutional quarantine. Those who are coming from repatriation flights from abroad, they are undergoing institutional quarantine for a period of 14 days. Institutional quarantine is again on paid basis, and they are being sent to hotels or any other accommodation on the basis of the payment being made. And after 14 days, if they test negative for COVID-19, then they will be sent for home quarantine for another 14 days, during which they'll have to self-monitor their symptoms.
Talking about domestic flights, what if a passenger has a connecting flight the following day? Where will that passenger stay?
If the passenger has a reconnecting flight, then the passenger can ask the district authorities, if the passenger does not have a place to stay, then the passenger can ask the district authorities to provide the passenger place for isolation or institutional quarantine, which have been set up by district authorities of various states. There the passenger can stay.
The outbreak of coronavirus and its rapid spread around the world have had an unprecedented impact on the travel industry. What will the travel industry look like? What's the future of the travel industry?
Future of travel industry, especially at this time, looks quite, because there is no certainty that people will show the same kind of demand that was being witnessed before 2 to 3 months, and there is still no clarity whether that kind of demand will pick up in the next 3 to 4 months, because several international bodies like Boeing, like ICAO, all of them have said that this is a problem which will take 2 to 3 years to recover. So maybe we are looking at a longer term of recovery for the entire sector, because currently there is only demand for essential travel. People are postponing their leisure plans, they are postponing their holidays. So it is a very uncertain future for this industry, for hotels, for airlines, but it is a question of survival as well for some. But then we'll be able to get a better picture only after 4 to 5 months, maybe by September, October, about the long-term future of this entire industry.
Ma'am, can you also tell us more about the contribution, the initiatives that were taken by the aviation sector amid the lockdown, globally and in our country?
Globally, all airlines and even in India, airlines started enforcing several disinfection measures for the aircraft. They have said that every 24 hours the aircraft will be disinfected. There are also protocols for the staff of the airlines and the ground handling agencies that they have to wear adequate protective gear such as masks, gloves and the entire PPE suit. In fact, all the airlines in India have mandated PPEs for their cabin crew. In the flights that are being operated today, the cabin crew people are wearing the entire PPE suit just to maintain that even if the cabin crew has the infection, it is not passed on to the passenger, and similarly it is not passed on from the passenger to the cabin crew. Similarly, airports also, there are social distance markings across the airport. The measures have been taken to ensure that there is adequate distance between two people if they are sitting in the boarding area or if they are waiting in the check-in area. Also, they are being boarded in the aircraft in batches. They are being boarded in a batch of 20 passengers. People are being told to maintain adequate distance even in the buses which are taking the passengers from the boarding area till the aircraft. So across the checkpoints, at the terminal, at the airside, the airports, airlines, everyone is ensuring that at least there is adequate distance between two passengers. Sanitizers have been installed across all entry points of the aircraft and the airport. So definitely the main focus is to minimize any kind of risk of spreading this COVID-19 among the passengers and the staff.
Ma'am, what has been the Indian states' cooperation in resumption of domestic flights?
States are a very important stakeholder in the resumption of flights, and that is what we have seen, because yesterday throughout the night and throughout the evening, in fact, there were back and forth discussions between the central government and the states and the airlines also, because, for example, a state like West Bengal, which has just witnessed Cyclone Amphan, they were not yet ready to resume operations, but still they were aware of the fact that there are people who are wanting to go out of Calcutta or who want to come to Calcutta. Similarly for Mumbai also, Mumbai is the second largest airport in the country. Many passengers are waiting to come out of Mumbai or go to Mumbai. So after having shown resistance to opening up flights, even Mumbai agreed to operating 25 departures and another 25 arrivals on a daily basis from today. All the other airports are opening up from today, other than Vizag, Visakhapatnam, which will be opening up on May 26th. And Chennai is allowing 50 arrivals and there is no limit on departures. So a very important role has been played by states, because they are the ones who have to ensure that the arriving passengers are being thermally screened at the exit points, and the symptomatic passengers are being taken to a medical facility. The asymptomatic passengers are being told to undergo home quarantine or monitor their health. So that entire structure has to be put in place by the state government, and that is why the state government's preparation for the arriving passengers is extremely necessary for the flights to resume, because only then the passengers can safely arrive or exit an airport.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on resumption of domestic flight services. The participants were Anu Sharma, civil aviation expert, and AIR correspondent Renu Kataria. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.